All right, we're getting the ball rolling here, so we're just going to wait a couple minutes, see if we can
I
get.
don't know. It's an honor to be talking to you in person.
Oh, great! I appreciate that. And again, the fact that I just started live streaming a couple of weeks ago, it's an honor to talk with fellow fans like myself because it's great to have these discussions one on one, but also have the community involved in it as well. So, what made you want to talk about Katheryn Cryer of all characters today?
Well, first of all, Catherine's my favorite character. I will tell you. She brings so much to the show. As I pay attention to the show, such a she's such a dynamic character. I mean, there's so many sides to Katheryn Cryer that it's just unbelievable. First you have her, and then you have her, well, killing the DA in the middle of the daggone living room. Then you have her, uh, then you have her chasing Veronica through the house with a knife, and then to loving friend to Hannah. So it's just like you never know what's Katheryn Cryer.
That's right. I mean, when you look at her character from season one to where we are now, she went from a person feeling alone in her marriage, her family, battling breast cancer, and then here comes Hannah to save the day, to give her the one thing she didn't have, which was a legitimate friendship. And from that, we definitely gotten an evolution of her character. I'm going to be honest here, and I said it before that during season one, it seemed that Katheryn was more of a background character than an actual main character because it was really Katheryn finding herself, like finding her strength outside of, her family, her so-called friends, and the fact that she's never had anybody who's been a true friend to her like Hannah was. And looks like we got a couple people in here watching now. So if you're just tuning in, this is an in-depth conversation about Katheryn Cryer's character, what she might do in future episodes. Again, this is Jeremy, the guy behind the channel, the Haves and the Have-Nots review. I'm speaking with Chandler. If you want to do a brief introduction of yourself.
Hi, I'm Chandler. I am one of Jeremy's followers, and I am a diehard fan of the Haves and the Have-Nots.
There we go. All right. Well, let's see. To get things started, I guess you could say, what do you expect that, or what are you hoping Katheryn will do in the upcoming season, starting in a couple of weeks here?
Well, I'm hoping that Katheryn is going to. I'm hoping that she's going to. Basically, I'm hoping that she's going to stay a Have, and I hope that she is. I hope that she. I would like to see her actually try to mend Candace and Hannah's relationship, if that's possible.
That's a good one. Wow. I think that when it comes to Katheryn,
Thank you. It's possible.
yeah, I think that when it comes to Katheryn, I feel like she could be capable of doing so, but I don't think she could stomach being in the same room as Candace. Remember that what did Hannah say? She wanted to get an attorney to help out Benny and Candace during the whole Quincy murder, but Katheryn was like, I don't want to do anything to help your
Yeah.
daughter. But at the same time, um, at the same time, Katheryn's like, okay, you're my friend, so I'll help her despite the fact that I hate her guts. But hey,
Jeremy, her exact words were, "I will not help the number 9, but since you're my friend, I will do anything to help you."
hey, I mean, it goes back to the whole the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, because remember that,
That what you don't.
yeah, when you look at it from reverse, from Hannah's perspective, she needs legal help to get Benny out of jail when the Secret Service had him locked up. And Katheryn was like, look, well, we need to get Veronica to help out. And it's like, no, I don't want that woman anywhere near my son. And then it's the same thing with Candace. Well, it's kind of funny because Katheryn wants to help Hannah, but at the same time, she doesn't want to help Candace, while
Candace.
yeah, while Hannah needs the help of Veronica, but she doesn't want anything to do with her because of what her and Benny was getting into. And it looks like we have a couple of questions that popped up here. Let's see, from Bermoni Vlog, she says, "Do you think Jim and Katheryn are going to get a divorce? What do you think about that? Do you think they'll actually finalize a divorce?"
I think Katheryn is done with you. Finished.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see a reason for them staying together. I mean, if anything, the fact that she was wishing that he was burned up in the house. I'm with Jim when he said that Katheryn was like just speaking out of anger, but she had that one moment of weakness where they had sex right before the finale last season. So people were wondering what's going on, but obviously,
mind you, in the trailer, it did show a scene with the two of them laughing together. Now, I've got some thoughts on that too.
okay, yeah, let's talk about that because I was actually going to get to that because those two together actually laughing. A lot of people are speculating it's because they found out about Veronica's accident, so they're laughing at that. But at the same
That's
time,
exactly what I was thinking. They're sitting there thinking, hey, you know, we both tried to kill that bitch. Now she is in. Now she's been in an accident.
I mean, honestly, there's no other way to describe it. I feel that when it comes down to Veronica, so many people have tried to take her down. So if there's any moment where she's on the receiving end of some, injury, it's going to be hilarious because the character you least expected to try to kill her off is the one that succeeded. That's why I said if Melissa actually died in the wreck, she went out like a champ because she's been one of the few people on the show that's made Veronica scared to death. I mean, you had Katheryn when she was being chased around with a knife. You had Quincy when he tried to rape her a couple of times. And then you have Melissa, of all people, who drove the car off the hill. So that was pretty good. But I feel...
Now, back to we were talking about Katheryn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another thing I've always thought about Katheryn, Katheryn and Mama Rose, and they're so alike in a lot of ways.
I can see that.
In the upcoming season.
Yeah, I can see that.
If Mama Rose does appear in the next season, I would love to see those two characters in reaction with one another. I would like to see how that would play out too.
Wow. I mean, when you think about it, both of them are done with Jim. Katheryn wants a divorce, and Mama Rose is pretty much cutting all ties to Jim. So that would be interesting.
It would be interesting to see if they would team up against Jim.
God, Jim is not looking good. There's so many characters. I mean, well, so many fans who feel, what if Candace uses her one favor with Mama Rose to get rid of Jim? What if Katheryn kills Jim? There's just so many different avenues of Jim Cryer being taken down. And
Jeremy said in numerous videos, Jim is screwed. I mean, and when you say that, he literally is screwed.
And that's why I named that video series Jim is Screwed. I think I did like a 3 or 4 part video series on that because ever since we have
I've watched your videos.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I broke it down because he's lost. Ever since he got out of that jail cell, it's been downhill. You knew it was going south as soon as he walked home and saw Jennifer's body in the floor. It's like, who the hell is that? Oh, we have Maya Jones here. Hello. Hello. I think that Jim Cryer is pretty much in a situation where it's a lose-lose. I cannot see how Jim Cryer can have one single victory because all of his resources are being tapped out. All of his connections are being cut. Katheryn, I mean, I don't like Jim Cryer because of everything he's done, but I've talked with other people before that he is correct in saying that all 4 of them, Veronica, David, himself, and Katheryn need to sit down and come up with a plan to get off this Jennifer Salison case.
They should at least, they should at least stick together for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
After that, they can do what they want, but for that, they should at least come together with a plan.
Yeah. Here's one interesting thing about Katheryn I wanted to talk about, and Jim said this. It had to do around with the time, around the time that she killed Jennifer. Jim was talking about how every time you lash out and do something, I'm the one that has to clean up the mess. In terms of, I believe that Catholic priest that molested Wyatt at that Bible camp, I'm pretty sure Jim was the one that had to clean up the mess because remember, Katheryn said that I made him disappear, and then so I can assume that Jim was the one to clean up the mess. Like, her shooting Jennifer in cold blood right in the living room. Jim wouldn't have done that. He would have had either somebody else do it and then clean up the mess. Katheryn pretty much lashed out in rage, and then it caused more problems. Oh,
like Kevin said on many occasions, you hire people to do your dirty work, Jim.
Yep.
I get my hands dirty.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. I'm going to be honest here. Going back to like the first few seasons, I thought that Katheryn and David were far more dangerous than Veronica and Jim, just because those two act on emotions and they just do things for the sake of doing things. But Katheryn and David are the calm, cool, and collected, calculating characters in the background. So every time they make a move, it's going to be big. Like, David having Oscar swoop in and sweep Candace off her feet. We saw a side of Candace. We saw Candace's vulnerable side. Then he took the money, and that was that. And I'm going to do a video on this too about Oscar because I still can't get over the fact that he went back to Candace's house after he got the money. I seriously have no idea why he did that.
I never did understand that either. I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, because I even... Yeah, I tweeted Oscar's like actor, Philip Boyd. I tweeted him. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, hey Oscar, Brandon, I like you on the show, but for the life of me, I cannot understand why you said, hey Candace, I'm going back to New York to finish that business trip. Like he was literally on his plane when Candace called him. It's like, I know you got the money, and then he's like, okay, turn the plane around. Why did you go back? Your job was done. And I think he tweeted me back saying, oh, it's just all part of the game. I'm like, well, I'm going to be honest here. Like, I know you're like an espionage guy and whatnot to recover stolen assets for people, but I don't know how many black people you've dealt with, because when a black woman is talking to you with that angry voice on the phone, the last thing you want to do is go back to their house because she had a knife behind her back.
And not only that, not only on top of that, him going back to the house, he ended up getting his ass beat by Quincy.
I know, right? It's like what Quincy came out of nowhere and grabbed Oscar off of Candace, then punched him into the wall, and then he got up out of there in a hurry. That was okay. Now I'm going to say this one last thing, then let's go back to Candace. Remember the fact that Quincy was choking Candace, right? He was choking her on the floor.
Yeah.
Think about the fact that Oscar left Candace's house, went back to the campaign office to talk to David. Jim got on stage to give his speech about how he isn't going to, leave his running for governor. And during that time frame, Professor Cannon got killed, Toxic got killed, Terrell, the officer, got killed. And during that entire time, Jeffrey went over to Candace's house and then helped kill Quincy. How long was Quincy choking Candace? How long was he doing that?
Who knows? Well, it seemed like it was like, I don't know. It was like for about, it was 15 minutes if you don't count the commercials. There was 15 minutes until the time that Quincy came in, grabbed Oscar off of Candace. The episode. So I guess you would, I don't know, 15 minutes?
The only way that could possibly work is if, how it's kind of like done in real time. Like, we'll have Hannah and Benny talking in one scene, then we'll go to another part of town. So we have to assume that these events are happening at the same time. So the only way I can see it work is like after Oscar left, given maybe 3 or 4 minutes, that's when Jeffrey showed up. So when Jeffrey came in with the knife and, started stabbing Quincy, that may have happened only a couple of minutes after Oscar left, as opposed to the very end of the episode where we had Oscar leaving Candace's house, going all the way back to the campaign office, then Jim getting on stage, and then of course them getting arrested. So, I don't even want to try to rack my brain over this. So let's just hop back to Candace. We'll definitely do an Oscar video in the near future. Okay, so it looks like Timothy Moore says they need to unleash Katheryn because I think she can add so much to the show. They need to show how much power she really has in that town. I wholeheartedly agree. I've said it at least 100 times already. I hope Veronica is out of commission, not dead, but out of commission for at least the first half of this upcoming season. That way the other characters have a chance to shine.
Yeah, I don't want her to be dead, but I do want, because it's like Veronica. She is like she has been the main villain on that. Well, she's doing everything. She's everywhere, and she's doing everything. So if she's out of commission, that is going to give so many characters their time to shine. It's going to be.
Yeah, I think that.
Great.
I feel like even though Candace is going to be like, she's being promoted as the one who's going to be getting revenge and plotting all these different schemes to blackmail people and get back at everybody she feels have wronged her, I dare say that Katheryn's going to be like the secret weapon of this season.
Something about Katheryn. I would like to see Katheryn interact with characters that she never has interacted with before. Like, for example, Justin maybe, or Quita Maxwell, and even just certain characters that Katheryn has never with before. I'd like to see her kind of branch out and act and react with even Erica or Oscar or Quita Maxwell or any of those characters that she has never interacted with. I'd like to see her branch out and kind of interact with new characters.
Hey, what if she finds out that Wyatt was being harassed by Justin? Because in the trailer, it looks like Justin is slamming Wyatt to the floor because he's still jealous about Wyatt and Jeffrey, even though they're not a couple. What if somehow Katheryn finds out about that and then she has Justin killed?
Not has him killed. Knowing her, she'll probably walk up to him and shoot him, blow his brains out. Not even kidding.
Oh, no joke. No joke. Look at what she did to Veronica after finding out what she did to Wyatt through Toxic. So imagine if she finds out that Justin has been harassing her son. Yeah, I would definitely agree that she would definitely pull that trigger. She doesn't care at this point. She does not care. And another thing is, I feel like her meeting other characters, and again, I've said it before, I love it when characters actually meet up with people that they haven't before because of the new combinations of interactions, possible team ups. Like when
I love that. Love that about the passion. Like, even when, like, and that's Eric and David. When we first saw Erica in the series, the first person, it was in season 3, episode 7, and the episode was called April 7th, 1979. And the first time we saw Erica, she was trying to sell Benny that car.
Yep.
And to give it to Hannah. And we never, it's like, she was interacting with Candace, but you never thought that when you go into season 5, and she is interacting, she's with David now. And when you first saw her, you never dreamed that. Just like when you first saw Mitch in season 3, episode 5, you just he was a Malone. You didn't know that.
Nope. And I love it when these secondary characters who you think are just like cameo appearances, they eventually have a bigger role in the actual show. And it looks like we're up to 21 people watching now. So again, welcome everybody. It's just me and Chandler here having a very in-depth discussion about Katheryn Crier's character. If you have any questions, feel free to chat in here. And another character who I feel like is going to be underestimated but might play a bigger role this season is going to be Quita Maxwell. So yeah, having her interact with Katheryn will be interesting. Oh my God. Remember that Quita had Wyatt held at gunpoint and then went over to his house. So Quita and Justin are two people that could definitely be on Katheryn's chopping block if she finds out what they did to Wyatt.
I would like to say, Oscar, to get Wyatt's money back from him, right?
That's right.
I would like to see if somehow that, well, I don't know how much she's going to be able to tell Katheryn, because I don't know how much how much Katheryn is going to want her to hear from you. If by some chance Katheryn finds out that Oscar Wyatt's money taken away from her, I wonder how do you think she'll react to that?
I feel like she'll be satisfied because remember, Jim said, well, his catchphrase, I'll handle it. So if anything, she'll probably be happy about it. I don't know if her and Oscar will have like a full in-depth discussion, but I wonder how exactly they're going to get the money back itself. Because remember that Katheryn, the thing about Jim I don't like is that there's a lot of information that he doesn't tell Katheryn. And I believe Timothy Moore says, I would love to see Jim and Katheryn together doing some damage because I don't feel their story is shared enough from a Savage standpoint. And I agree. I feel like Katheryn and Jim would definitely make a great team. But the problem is Jim is so selfish that he only cares about himself. He's neglected his wife for far too long. And it's just crazy because same with Veronica and David. If these couples linked up with their significant others, there's no telling what they can't accomplish. Like literally, when you think about Jim's like ruthlessness, but Katheryn's resources. You think about David's calculating technical mind, but then you have Veronica who has this tenacity as well as this drive for control that makes them unstoppable. They're halves for a reason, but it's their own self infighting that's going to cause their destruction. And again, it goes back to why these four need to sit together to get past this Veronica case. Remember when they all got arrested by Jennifer for the little Lizzie thing, and Jim didn't want anything to do with Veronica?
Yeah.
And Veronica represented herself and got off. Jim said, I'll do the same thing. And he literally got busted within 30 seconds. He's like, no bail. He was like, what the hell? And then he pretty much mouthed himself off into like, what, a couple extra weeks in jail. So that was just a prime example.
The judge's name that was on trial was Judge Samuel Hawthorne. And they had it in for each other for years now. And then Samuel said, Judge Hawthorne said, bail is denied, next case. And Jim was like, you son of a bitch. and Judge Hawthorne said, okay, 30 days on top of whatever time it takes you to get to court. And next case, please. And that was it. That was.
Yeah, I mean, it was just
pretty much
talked himself into a hole. I mean, that's
pretty much screwed himself up.
Again, it's just a prime example of why him and Candace are so in common, because they let their emotions get the better of them and then they suffer because of it. And when you think about it, Katheryn is just one of those characters. Let's talk about season 1 and season 2 Katheryn here. And I said earlier that I really didn't feel like she was a main character, just because in season 1 she was kind of like the victim to, oh my gosh, we saw how her husband treats her, how the fact that his wife is dying in front of him, but he doesn't even know it. Her children are both troubled. They don't like her. Hannah's the only one that actually cares about it. You know, Veronica is pretty much only there for appearances. And then you think about how they eventually got past the whole breast cancer stage. And again, another plot point that's never been brought up. Remember the episode where she went into surgery? She did the video will with Hannah, which is why myself and a few other people think that, you know, if Katheryn were to die for some reason, Hannah would definitely be inheriting some money. However, we know for a fact that Katheryn rewrote her will and showed it to Hannah, so she knows for a fact that she's entitled to a few, what was it, like $3 million? I forgot the exact amount there.
It was $3 million, and let's think, that video will suffer than is, because if Hannah may have taken that home with her after she recorded it, remember, back in, years ago, Hannah's house, Quincy destroyed Hannah's house, drove a car through it, and that caused it to burn down.
Chandler. I talked with my mom about that this weekend, and I said the exact same thing. there is a sliver of hope that the camera is still active. Remember that when Benny was telling Hannah, "You're moving in with me," he said, "I've already taken some of your clothes and whatnot from your house and put them in my house." So there is a possibility, not a guarantee, but a possibility that Benny grabbed her purse that had the camera in there. So there is a chance. I mean, we'll have to see, because remember that, let's say, heaven forbid that Katheryn does die. You can imagine that people like Jim and whatnot will try to use their legal connections to try to get will or negate the will. I believe, let's talk about the video will itself. If I'm not mistaken, she said, "Jim is not entitled to a dime. My children will get their inheritances, and then the rest of the money will be..."
She said, "I want to make clear, my husband, Jim Cryer, is not to inherit a cent of my money."
Yeah, that's right. And I believe, aside from Amanda and Wyatt getting their inheritance, with Amanda dead, we'll have to question what happens to that money. She said the rest of the money is going to be given to like the Cancer Research Association. And then I believe like her property donated to charity or something like that. And I feel like if Katheryn dies, there will be a fight for that money in some way, shape, or form. Like, her physical will might not be found. I do know that she said if anybody were to contest the will, they're automatically going to be erased from it.
That's it.
Yep. And another thing about Katheryn I wanted to bring up. So in season 1, we really had Katheryn being the victim. Like, literally everything around her was crumbling. And towards the end of season 1, she even told Hannah, it's like, "Look, I spent the last few years of my life trying to fight to keep everything together, and I almost died. It almost killed me. What I'm going to do now is just sit back and watch everything fall apart." Then we transition to season 2, where Katheryn really played like a backseat role, just because, season 2 really focused on the little Lizzie situation, where it was about trying to save Wyatt from being arrested and being thrown in jail for murder. And then when we get to season 3, we have Katheryn reacting to the death of Amanda. And I feel like Katheryn's moment of evolving into a new character was when she literally dragged Celine out of the house by the hair. I feel like that was the start of the new Katheryn Cryer.
Because when I saw that, it was just like, that was season 3, episode 7, when she did that. And when I saw that, I'm thinking, whoa.
Yeah, I remember tweeting Renee Lawless about that.
Here you had this vulnerable, sad woman to now like this, basically this woman who's now taken charge. She's in behind, so to speak.
Yep. And I know Katheryn told me on Twitter she wishes that scene was not in the preview trailer for the episode, because in the trailer we saw that she was fighting Celine. That would have been like 100 times better if we didn't even know that fight was coming. I mean, it literally just took me by surprise the way that it happened. And then the fact that, we got a brand new Katheryn Cryer. I mean, even Jim said, like, this Katheryn is a fighter. And it was just crazy to see her going from, attacking Celine. You know what? Hey, even though she chased Veronica around the house with a knife and everything, my favorite breakout Katheryn moment, even above when she shot Jennifer, was when she cracked Candace upside the head with that wine bottle.
Oh my goodness! She came in, and she was asking Candace why Amanda had that break.
Yep, that's right.
Like, I can't. Me for this. Excuse me. But she was laying on the floor, and Katheryn was just. Another thing about Katheryn Cryer, I like how she just does something, and then she just walks away like nothing. For example, when she killed Jennifer Salison, she told Veronica, she said, "Now your job, be out of this." And she slammed the gun down, and she just walks away and straightens up her flower vase and walks upstairs. It's like nothing ever happened.
I know, right? That was amazing. And the same thing with Candace, knocked her upside the head and walked off. I feel like that scene was a perfect example of Jim and Katheryn working together. What I really loved about that scene is that, did Jim was like pretty much dead that entire episode, even though it was about Amanda's funeral. Jim Cryer was the one that was dead inside. Like just his facial expression, the way he was sitting down in the chair. Katheryn was really doing all the talking, and just his physical body language when he saw Katheryn take that wine bottle, crack Candace upside the head, and then walked off. That was just amazing. I loved it so much. Again, a perfect example.
Yeah, I am going to share a fact about myself here. And I have no vision, no sight. But when I heard him, he was just like, okay.
Yeah, I think he like sucked his teeth or something like that. He was like, and then he walked off too.
and then in the next episode, Katheryn was like, it was like a pan of water that she poured on Candace, and she's like, snap.
Yep, that's right. I love it when Katheryn Cryer takes control, and like even in that episode herself, she looked like a bit pale. She looked like a ghost, to be honest. Like I feel that's one thing I really compliment about various scenes that Tyler Perry does, because we have like different lightings, the clothing, as well as the body language that describes a character in terms of how they really are acting different than they usually do. We actually have a couple questions pop up here. Let's see. Dominique Yancey, Katheryn is my favorite character. I will be doing a top 10 have and have not character list before the show premieres. I'm still working on the list because there are just so many characters that I feel like, 2 seasons ago, one character might have been in the top 5, but I feel like they slipped down to like, the bottom 2. And another, let's see, question here. Do you think Candace will get revenge on Katheryn? What did Katheryn do? Well, actually, yeah, cracked her upside the head with a bottle, duh. But I wonder what she would do to get back at Katheryn. That's one question I'm wondering.
I don't know, but I think in my personal opinion, if Candace Young knows what's good for her, she will leave Katheryn Cryer alone.
Yep, that's the problem.
That's all I'm saying.
That's the problem. She pretty much, if somebody wrongs her or she believes, keep in mind, Candace, whenever she thinks that somebody wrongs her, more often than not, it's their retaliation for something that Candace initially did. So I agree that Candace should know better. But remember, after the whole situation with the Malone, she should have learned that Jim Cryer is not one to be trifled with, yet she still went ahead and got him abducted by Warlock and his crew. So she loves living that lifestyle, even when it makes no sense whatsoever to go against somebody way more powerful than you are. She'll still do it. The same thing with Charles. She will eventually do what she can to overthrow him from the power chair. So she'll definitely try to go against Katheryn, even though it's probably one of the dumbest moves she's ever made so far. And trust me, she's made some ridiculous moves so far.
So many ridiculous moves that her own son is now dead, because it's just the whole thing is just everything. I think every bad thing that happens, and Hannah has even said this on so many occasions. It's a cycle. It's a loop.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
All intertwined.
Couldn't agree more. Let's see. Something about Katheryn we should discuss is the fact that she only has one living child left. So anything that goes towards harming Wyatt will definitely be a trigger for her. Do you think there are any other triggers that could set Katheryn off the deep end? I feel like somebody messing with Hannah would definitely be another trigger for her.
See, I kind of thought that when I kind of think that, what I would like to happen? I would like for Katheryn to find out that Jim was the one who released Warlock from jail, because she knows that Warlock and his crew killed Quincy Jr.
Oh my God, that is great. Yes. Continue.
And I would like to find out, because that might be another reason for Katheryn to go off and basically, Katheryn would be like saying, she would say, so you mean to tell me, you son of a bitch, that you got that man, that thug out of jail to kill Hannah's grandson? You son of a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, remember how she reacted when she found out that Veronica was the one that got Wyatt raped in jail? So, oh my God. It's just ridiculous because even though Jim was bragging about having a sharpshooter kill Quincy Jr., even though I think that was total bullcrap, he was indirectly responsible for him being killed. But yes, all roads lead back to Candace, because if she had never lied, and again, I feel like I'm definitely going to be doing another video about Warlock, because I remember way back when Candace was all about having Warlock go straight in terms of a legit career. And I would have loved to see that, because with his street smarts, the same thing with Candace, if she put those street smarts towards law school, she would be one hell of a lawyer. If Warlock took his cunning, his business savvy, his ambition, they definitely could have done something good with that money. It's just a shame it all went to waste.
That's, I was talking about Warlock. I would love for Katheryn to find out that Jim was the one who got Warlock out of jail. That would be it. Oh, that would set up some interesting plot points, an interesting storyline. How's that?
Hey, didn't Mama Rose know that Jim did that? I think she mentioned that when Jim and Mama Rose were sitting in the restaurant together.
Oh, no, yeah, because Jim was talking and Jim said, well, I got work out of jail I had to get work out of jail to help take care of Candace. And Mama Rose was like, oh, yeah, so that's why you had David Harrington get him out, huh?
Yeah, because you wouldn't let me kill. Oh, yeah, that I love that scene, because Mama Rose wasn't playing, and she was right. It's like, look, she's the one that got away, because Mama Rose wanted to kill Candace back in season 2, but Jim was like, no, just scare her. And because of that, let's say if Mitch would have gotten killed, Jim Cryer would have been dead, because Mama Rose knew that he was responsible for Warlock being released in the first place.
I don't know how she knew it, but she knew it, and she knew that David was part of it too.
Hey,
David and Jim both.
Remember, Mama Rose said that they own the cops, so that's probably why she knew.
She said, good thing I own the cops, and it was just like, so I think David and Jim have lost a really big ally in terms of Mama Rose. They've lost a big ally.
Just like Candace when Warlock, turned against her. That's what happened, because she lied and lost her hired muscle, which was one of her best resources. Jim indirectly almost caused the death of her grandson. So by doing so, he lost a big asset with Mama Rose. And I feel like, Jim, not even David per se, because Jim always trying to loop David to like, look, we're in trouble. Mama Rose is against us. When I'm like, no, Mama Rose is against you. Mama Rose wasn't too fond of David having the phones cut off at the tow company because her grandson was trying to do a legit business. So she put him back in line. But Jim is the one that really messed up. So, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I say, Candace, she brought Warlock to Mama Rose's restaurant. So in that, Candace has gained a very powerful ally. So who knows? Candace could use Mama Rose to take down all these halves. I mean, Mama Rose is, if Candace, that's another thing, Candace is not, Candace is making a lot of dumb decisions now, but Candace has a very powerful ally. So if Jim messes with her one time, goes and say, hey, I need you, this is what we need to do. And Jim is really screwed.
All it takes is one phone call. I mean, just like when Jim ordered that bloodbath back in season 3, Candace could do the same thing. But I don't think Candace is one to just kill people off. She wants to destroy them emotionally, economically, and then if she feels like it, have them killed off.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the season will be done in like one episode. If it's like, Mama Rose, kill all these sons of bitches, and boom. And I loved it when Jim was ordering the bloodbath. It's like, a inmate, Toxic, a police officer, Terrell, a professor named Cannon.
Actually, the funny thing is, if you think back, when he was ordering the bloodbath, you saw it. He didn't mention Toxic's name when he was ordering the bloodbath. He said, yes, there's an officer named Terrell. There's a professor named Cannon. And there's a lawyer named Harrington.
She was like, David? She was like, David? No, Veronica.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, he didn't mention Toxic's name, so to see him actually getting killed off.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, there must have been something behind the scenes that we didn't quite catch.
Yep. Another thing is, let's see. Yeah, Candace definitely. Well, aside from the Malones, you know, if she actually wants to, she has the potential president of the United States wrapped around her fingers, so to speak. So, Candace, I feel like this season is definitely going to be a defining one for Candace Young because she has, honestly, she has all the cards on her table. But the problem is she doesn't know how to play them right because she's being fueled by her emotional rage over the death of her son. I feel like she's going to have all of these elaborate schemes laid out, but she's going to make a dumb mistake that's going to cost her everything.
Yeah, who knows what that mistake would be?
I feel like that's the thing about the Veronica Candace team up, and I'm pretty sure you watch my videos on that. Those two working together will definitely achieve a lot of things, but at the 11th hour, when they're about to achieve everything they've worked for, one of them will either stab the other in the back or somebody's going to screw it up somehow.
I just hope whatever happens at Oscar. I don't know how that's going to play out because I'm sure she'll try to get back at him too.
Yeah, he was in the trailer talking to her at the bar, but it looks like she lashed out at him. And honestly, I don't even know why Oscar is even bothering with Candace because, as he said, look, you're damaged goods. You tried to blackmail this guy, so I don't need you anymore. Not to mention, Charles already knows that Oscar's onto him, so I'm not going to lie, aside from helping Jim out with getting the money back from Wyatt, I'm beginning to think that just like Erica, what role does Oscar actually have to offer to the show now?
Unless Oscar has got, who knows, even yet another mark for Candace. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I definitely agree. And when it comes to Katheryn, I mean, there are just so, as you mentioned before, there's so many characters that I want her to interact with just because anytime Katheryn cries in a scene, it's never a dull moment. What I like about Katheryn is like, you don't really know what Veronica's going to do, but you do know it's going to be something big. You don't know what Candace is going to do, but you know it's going to be something sleazy. But whenever I feel like in terms of one-liners, Katheryn Cryer is the queen of it. There are just so many scenes where she'll say one or two bits of dialogue, and I'll just steal the scene right there. Especially with Jennifer Salson.
And I'll give you an example. For example, like in season 1, episode 3, Jim said, "Come on, Katheryn, let me sleep in the bed. You know I have a back issue." And Katheryn said, "You have a front issue too. You can't seem to keep it in your pants." I was like,
yep.
Whoa.
He slept on that little couch beside the window, all pitiful. Then the next day at work, David's like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "Got a bad back." I agree. There's just so many signs. How about another one from season 1 where Katheryn's like, "Turn out." Yeah, it was that same scene. It's like, "Turn out the light. Turn it out yourself, you ass." Because Jim. Exactly. It was just ridiculous. Another thing about Katheryn is the fact that I want to see her family, like her extended family, like her siblings that we know she has. I feel like I'm going to repeat this in a lot of videos about, yeah.
Because, do you remember when Katheryn mentioned something about Jim sleeping with her sister?
Yeah.
I'd like to see that sister. And I would also like to learn a little bit more about her father. We know that his last name was Hargrave, but I don't think we ever got his first name. And I would like to just know a little bit more about him.
We know that behind closed doors, he was like a raging alcoholic. So We definitely know. I mean, they even said that at the beginning of season 2 when they were arguing about Wyatt in terms of the hit and run case. So we do know that he had his demons and he wasn't an angel. So I feel like Katheryn definitely got her tenacity from her father. Like literally, she looks like a glowing queen, but she's definitely like the queen from Snow White, beautiful to look at. But if you cross her, you're dead. That's it. So
Yeah.
I feel like there are so
And,
many
and another thing
relatives though.
about Katheryn is there are a lot. Another thing about Katheryn is there are a lot of things that in storylines that Katheryn are in. There are a lot of things that she doesn't know that she should know. Like,
Yep.
I'll give you an example. Like all the way back to season 1. Okay, you remember when Candace and Candace was going to blackmail Jim for the car, right?
Yep.
For that sports car and that and the $100,000. Well, David put the drugs in Candace's car, had that detective, which who knows where he is. Detective Rankins was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows where he is?
Gone.
He put the drugs. Yeah, he's gone. He put the drugs in Candace's car, and Benny was the one who got arrested. And all of this. See, I wish that Katheryn would have known that David put the drugs in Candace's car, and because Katheryn and Hannah even went to Jim and David's office to get them to help with find an attorney for Benny.
That's right.
And I wish Katheryn would. I feel like if Katheryn would have known then and there that crooked detective Rankins had, the car, and he had Benny arrested and wouldn't do anything to help him. Had Katheryn have known that situation would have been squashed a whole lot sooner.
Oh yeah, season 1 really showed, and season 2 showed that even though that David and Jim are capable, those two can't even hold a candle to the likes of Veronica and Katheryn, because their plans have way too many holes in it. Like if Katheryn or Veronica wanted to arrange to have Candace arrested, it would have happened. There would have been no goof ups. Like the fact that a male was arrested when it was supposed to be a female just showed how incompetent this guy was. I mean, David did say, "Oh, well, it turns out that's Hannah's son and Candace's brother. We might be able to make things work out after all." But at the same time, it just made things even worse. Not to mention when David began to have a change of heart, realizing that Hannah really wasn't a bad person. It was Candace that was the evil one. But yeah, that was one of the interesting things about season 1. Like, Candace and Hannah were looking for help from the same people that put them in that situation to begin with. It was just crazy.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it was when Veronica got involved. David and Jim were like, "Oh my God!"
She destroyed them. She destroyed them.
There's no way out now.
My favorite line from that dialogue was like, "Oh, not you, detective. You're below the pay grade. I was done." She's like, "My name is Veronica." Oh, that was it. I feel. Oh, speaking of monologues.
What got me when she said, "What has been in the candy jar?" I was like, "Oh,
yes,
no, she did not."
Yes. Oh, honestly, I feel like the award for the best speech is definitely Katheryn Cryer talking about number 9 when she first labeled Candace as number 9. If I'm not mistaken, that was after. Was that before or after she got out of surgery for the breast cancer? I forgot. I know she got out the bed. Oh, go ahead.
That was the episode before she went into the hospital when she did that.
See, that's why that scene was so good. She's battling breast cancer, but she got out the bed, put her slippers on, hung onto the pole at the end of the bed, and like verbally destroyed Candace. I was done. And I'll never forget when Candace went down the stairs and it's like, "Oh, and you could tell that bitch I'm going to be somebody else's number 1." I was like, "Oh my God." Katheryn Cryer for the win.
Yeah. See, that when she told Candace off like that was actually before she had her surgery. That was the episode before she had her surgery.
That makes it even more impressive to me.
Yeah. And actually, the name of the episode was actually number 9.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, that's what I love about the episode titles. Like in that live stream I did yesterday, I talked about how these episode titles are always integrated into the episode in one way or another. Either the title is verbally said, but if the title is in reference to like an item or a person or a date is going to be mentioned. You probably know this better than I do, but after Amanda was found dead and everybody was stuck in the living room, Katheryn talked about the exact day and year of when she met Jim Cryer. I forgot the name of the episode, but I do know that it was the
exact day and year. It was season 3, episode 7, and it was 9.
The one thing I did like about that episode is that again we got some background on how she met Jim and whatnot, and that just goes to show Tyler Perry should definitely consider doing that Have and Have Nots movie where he tells the story of how these characters met, how things eventually came to be in terms of their personalities, the affairs, and then definitely link that to the series. I feel like that would be a great farewell letter to the fans. If anything, that would be a great time.
I would love to have the ending of the movie, and I couldn't agree more with you when you say this. The movie is when it should be when Candace walks through the door.
Yep. When she knocks on that door and Jim opens it up, I'm like, yep, that should be the ending. Perfect way to wrap things up. Because in that movie, you think about it, we can have Katheryn's father, we can have her family, her siblings, we can have when she meets Jim in high school, when they got married, when they first had Wyatt and Amanda, when Celine was with Jim. We can get some of his some of Wyatt's babysitters and tutors or teachers, and the list goes on. And I'm just talking about Katheryn and Jim. That's not to say anything about Hannah when she was younger and whatnot.
Jim's mom, because Katheryn's already said Jim's mom was a bitch.
Yep, that's the only thing we know about her.
Yeah, I don't even know if she, and we could get the Wyatt at the summer camp, the priest, what Katheryn did with the priest, how Jim cleaned that mess up.
Yep, or when Jeffrey beat up that bully with the baseball bat.
Yeah, Bobby Saitman, yeah.
Yep. There are just so many things. And I've said it so many times, that's one of my biggest fears. If the show ends, but a lot of these plots or storylines are either dropped completely or they're rushed to a conclusion. And, I would love to see the interaction between...
That's another thing I don't like is all these plots. Like, a lot of these characters, these characters that die off, like Jennifer Salison, for example, we had so many different plot resolutions to be resolved with that, because when Katheryn, right smack in the middle of the living room, she was she was investigating Amanda's, and I'm going to say it, she was investigating Amanda's murder, because I do think that it was a homicide.
Thank you. I can't say that enough. I never thought it was suicide. And also, Jennifer most likely had a history with David, but that was never explored. That pissed me off. I wanted to know what happened with those two.
Yeah, me too.
Man.
See, I think with all this, and even Veronica out of commission, David, and after all this mess is done, David might tell Jim or Katheryn, did tell me that Amanda's murder was under investigation for a homicide.
Yep. I mean, I'm glad it hasn't come up yet, because there's just way too much going on. I feel like that would be too much right now. I said in another video that if I were to make an estimation, I think that might be brought up during the actual court case.
Like that's a whole, and so many plot, like Veronica's mother. Who in the world?
Don't get me started.
Where in the world?
Dude, don't get me started.
Based on the previews, I don't even know if we will see Veronica's mother this season, because there's just so much.
I feel like Veronica's mom should have showed up a long time ago. I'm not just talking about season 2 during various episodes where David said that, hey, I've been talking with my mother-in-law about my marriage having a rough patch. You know, there were times where he's talking with Jim or he was talking with Maggie and somebody, like a secretary, comes in saying, oh, there's a call for you. Oh, it can wait. It's your mother-in-law. Oh, I'll be right back. Think about it this way. Think about it. There were so many times when Veronica's mom should have showed up. Number one, and I'm just listing out a couple reasons. Number one, when Maggie put that story in the paper on the front page about Jim and Veronica conspiring together, and then you had a picture of Veronica and Benny on the front page making out. And then another time when her mother should have shown up was when the house burnt down. It's like you would think she would check on her child. It's like, what happened? I heard your house got on fire or whatnot. And now it's like Veronica could potentially be on her deathbed after that car accident. And now you're wondering, will her mom even show up? Not to mention when Veronica, David, Jim, and Katheryn got arrested by Jennifer Salison. And I'm assuming that was done on live television because Jim literally stepped off the stage after his speech. And Jennifer was right there to have him arrested in front of everybody. So there have been plenty of times when Veronica's mom should have shown up, but she hasn't.
What put me in mind, what made me think that Veronica's mother should show up is remember when David, Jim, Katheryn, and Veronica were standing outside of Katheryn's house as it was burning down? Veronica and David were talking about divorce court.
Yep.
David goes, oh, I'm prepared for anything. About Veronica's mother, right?
Oh my God. That actually makes sense because I've always been wondering why David's been so confident lately in terms of, don't worry, Jeffrey, I'm not going to hurt your mother. I have a plan for her. Or, oh, I'm ready for you in divorce court. And it's like, after everything you've seen her do and what she's capable of, how in the world can David be confident? But yeah, her mom being a trump card, I never even thought of it that way. Oh, and another thing, remember she even put in the paper about how Jeffrey and Melissa are expecting a child and they're engaged. When they had that engagement dinner when she was going to invite Melissa and her parents, I thought that would have been a perfect time for, her mom to show up. So again, there's just no telling. Wow. There's just so much.
Just like David, when you have your David is sitting there, he's talking to Veronica. Veronica will walk out of the room and he'll just sit there and he'll go, and then he'll pick up the phone to dial a number. You could almost assume his mother-in-law.
Oh, without a doubt, it was his mother-in-law. But I mean, to kind of wrap things up here, I mean, we could talk about Katheryn all day. The thing about the haves and the have-nots I love is that even though these videos and the blogs and whatnot, it can start off talking about one character, but naturally it has to jump to somebody else because all these storylines are so intertwined. And when I think about Katheryn, how about this, like one last topic here. I did find it hilarious when she was hitting on Mitch when they were in the jail, trying to get Benny out. I feel like that was a definite scene. A lot of people are like, ew, that's gross. But I'm like, I find it hilarious because that episode was drama filled. And I feel like they needed at least one scene that was humor. And that was it. I loved it. It was hilarious.
Mitch was, and the thing that, because Katheryn kept throwing it in his face, you're Malone. Remember she was doing that?
Haunted by a Surname. I believe that was the episode title.
And that's what I was going to say. That's interesting. That's interesting. That was the name of the title, Haunted by a Surname, because Katheryn kept saying, "You're Mitch Malone, the Mitch Malone." Everybody kept saying that. Veronica said, "Have you met the Mitch Malone?" And Katheryn making a pass at him saying, "You're Mitch Malone," and that was interesting. That was why it was called Haunted by a Surname.
Mm-hmm. It's like no matter what you do, it's like your name's going to follow you. And that's why I've said, like, it's possible Mitch might become an enemy at some point, because every time a character does something that they don't want to do, like, remember, Warlock didn't initially want to have anything to do with Jim Cryer because that's a judge and he can bring down hell on his entire operation. And then Mitch is like, look, I don't want to have anything to do with my the Malone lifestyle. I mean, Mama Rose said that, whenever he needs a favor, he'll call her up, but he doesn't want to have anything to do with the lifestyle. But when it came to setting up Warlock, I believe it was one of his family members like, oh, Mitch, so you're finally coming into the family business, huh? He's like, yeah. And then in the trailer, we see Mitch sitting down with, well, assumingly a Malone, and they're throwing down wads of cash on the table when Benny shows up. So I'm really nervous that Mitch is going to be dipping more into that Malone lifestyle, and that's going to be trouble for everybody else.
We didn't see Mama Rose in the trailer.
No. I feel like that's because Mama Rose is kind of a secondary character, so we can assume that if Mitch is becoming more Malone, it wouldn't surprise me if Mama Rose shows up. Yeah, I don't doubt Mama Rose will show up due to the fact that Mitch is becoming more of a Malone, and also because she owes Candace a favor, so she'll definitely show up.
Will.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The new Mama Rose was actually in the trailer for the previous season when she was on the phone, pretty much stating that Mitch when she was talking about my grandson almost got shot, and that was the first time we saw the new Mama Rose, and people were going off. It's like, why did they change the actress? So yeah, you're right. So maybe because it was a reintroduction of her character, she had a bigger impact last season. Literally, she literally cut ties with Jim, dumped the body in front of the news station. So I wonder what's going to happen next season. I wonder what's going to happen there. Oh my God.
I do too, because the last time we saw Mama Rose, she was in that restaurant, and she's like, well, who's going to clean all this up?
Yeah. I know, that was hilarious. What if, and again, this is just a funny what if here. You know how Benny and Veronica were a thing. What if Katheryn and Mitch start some kind of like cougar relationship, whatever, and then that's how Katheryn meets Mama Rose? That would be hilarious. Like you said it earlier, you want those two to meet. Let's see if that happens. Oh my God.
That happened, and I wonder how if Mama Rose finds out that Jim's wife is hitting on her grandson. Oh my goodness. No, you never know.
Remember what Mama Rose said to David? Is like, so the kid is banging your wife. Who cares? It's like, just cut the phones back on.
Yeah, leave them alone. Cut the phones back on.
Oh my God. Oh man. Let's see here. All right. Well, before we close out here, because it's been the thing I love about these live streams is like 1 minute the clock is at 5 minutes. The next thing you know, it's over an hour. But it's like there's just so much more to talk about. But there are a few things I want to take care of because around 8 o'clock, that's when I'm going to get things up.
I really enjoy talking to you, Jeremy. We should do this again sometime.
Oh, no doubt. We will definitely, because what I like is that the channel is really doing very well now during an off season, but when the shows come back on, it's going to be like nonstop. Like, I know there's going to be way more videos. I'm going to be having way more live streams because the plan is, I'll watch the episode in real time on Tuesday night. I'll be tweeting, but then as soon as the show goes off at 10 o'clock, boom, live stream. We're going to be talking about the episode, and then throughout the week about different theories. Like, I'm definitely going to be watching the haves and the have-nots without a doubt. If Loving You Is Wrong, I'm going to try it out this season, like, just because of the fact that they're bringing it back earlier than they usually do.
Say this.
Yeah.
I will say this. If Loving You Is Wrong, and I like it, it's okay, but my top priority is the haves and have-nots.
That's why the channel is named after it. I mean, literally, I was thinking about doing something like something that encompasses all the shows, but when it really came down to it, the haves and the have-nots is the only one I can actually like talk about. I know I don't want to sound like a blasphemous Christian when I say this, but you know how you can read the same scripture in the Bible like 80 times, but then get something new out of it each time? The same thing when it comes to the haves and the have-nots, because I can talk about a character or an episode so many times, but then get something new out of it. Like during this last hour, there were new avenues that you brought up that I didn't even think of, and I've watched these episodes like a bunch of times.
I'm looking forward to those because I watched your live stream. I was in there yesterday when you were talking about the titles of the episodes. I didn't expect that, but I knew it happened. The episodes, like, for example, Hannah reveals a deep, dark secret.
Yeah, I think that was called The Lion. Yeah.
It was season 5, episode 4. It was called The Lion.
Mm-hmm.
And I am hoping that it has something to do with Candace's father. I have been waiting for that for a long time now.
Yep. I feel like Candace's father, Veronica's mother, so many. Again, I can't say it enough. They need to introduce these characters who already have an established relationship with the main cast instead of coming up with Charles and Justin and all that. I want to see more fleshed out development. That's why I want Veronica's mom to show up, because we'll get more of an understanding why Veronica the way she is.
Like Charles and Justin. Charles showed up out of nowhere. We had heard nothing about him. Known nothing about him. Nobody had mentioned him. Nobody had even mentioned president. So
we're talking about the governor.
It's kind of ridiculous how he. Yeah. I'm not knocking his character or knocking the actor who plays him. I think his name is Nick Sager. But what I am saying is we never heard of him. He just came out of nowhere.
He literally just walked into the hotel. David did some exposition on his background, then walked up to him, and that was it. And yeah, I agree. He does a great job for his role. And that scene where he's like, when he called the Secret Service in there, he told Candace about, on the campaign camp, they call me Chucky. When he did that speech, I was done. I'm like, oh my God, he shut it down. But I feel like the bad part about his character is that they just raised the stakes to an entirely new level when it didn't really need to go that far. Like, look how long it took from,
it was like gubernatorial candidates to all the way up to president. And I'm like, okay, that's a little far-fetched.
Exactly. I mean, because you have like episode 3 when Jim and David announced to, their friends and family, like, we're running for governor and lieutenant governor. It took like what? Season 3 for when Jim finally got on stage to announce he was running for governor. And now you have this guy running for president. And it's like, look, how do you go from governor to presidential candidate like that? It made no sense whatsoever. But I mean, a lot of people are speculating that Oscar might be working with the FBI. Oh man, that's crazy. I mean, could it be possible?
Exactly.
I mean, if we can have Candace banging the next president of the United States, Oscar working for the FBI is not far-fetched. And that's just to say how ridiculous the storyline has gotten at some points. But I do feel like, yeah, this would definitely be a great season for Katheryn Cryer to get some shine. And just one more shining moment for Katheryn was when she told Hannah about how she neglects her blessings when they're right there in front of her. And that was just a breath of fresh air, because there have been so many times where Katheryn wants to help out Hannah, but she refuses. Like, I can understand, after she found out that Wyatt was the one that hit her son, but Katheryn didn't want to admit to it. But after that, I'm just like, come on, guys. Let's just get this going, because Hannah was all about getting custody of Quincy Jr., but she didn't even have a job or a place to live. So Katheryn was literally about to offer it up to her. Man, it was just crazy. But I'm glad Katheryn set the record straight there.
Like even when Hannah, when Benny got hit by Wyatt, Katheryn paid the medical bills. Katheryn had him. And I'll tell you how. Remember when Tony was wanting to come over and take Benny off the life support?
Yep.
And in the season, like the mid-season, the episode before the mid-season finale of season 2, Hannah went to the hospital, wasn't there. That Hannah was not. It turned out that she thought that or excuse me, she thought that Benny was dead because she thought that Benny was dead.
Yeah.
Because Tony took him off of life support.
Remember that look on Hannah's face?
Anyway,
Yeah, go ahead.
she said Hannah thought that Benny had died because he wasn't there at the hospital, and she just broke down crying. She felt so bad because she thought Tony had already taken him off of life support. And then Hannah got arrested by Tony and his attorney and that judge. Where is Benny? You won't tell me where he is. And she called Katheryn, and Katheryn was like, the reason you didn't see him there at the hospital is I had him moved to a private hospital. Yes, thank God for Katheryn Pryor.
Because if she didn't do it, Benny would have been dead. And I feel like that would have been a waste because Tony never got Benny tested to know if he's actually a match for the kidney. So can you imagine if he was actually taken off life support, they took out a kidney, and then it turned out he wasn't even a match?
Oh, that would, yeah, see, that would be crazy.
Yep.
So basically, Katheryn Pryor indirectly basically took down Tony Watson in a way.
Yep. Oh, another thing to remember. Oh, remember when the doctor came? Well, that nurse came up to Hannah with the doctor's bill for Benny after he got taken off life support, and she literally was speechless. Yeah. And then it turns out the doctor showed up. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. Katheryn Pryor took care of the bill. Can you imagine Hannah? Oh my God, that's definitely a blessing in itself. And speaking of, go ahead.
Has been an angel to Hannah.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments was when Katheryn, after Amanda died, when Katheryn went over to Hannah's house for the first time, she met Benny, and they had that conversation about how it feels like I know I'm alive, but it feels like I'm out of my body, like watching everything above me. And I don't know if you've seen this video, but I did this a while ago about my mom's theory that everything in the show was actually Katheryn Pryor dreaming.
It's Katheryn. I'll put it this way. I've seen every one of your videos. That video was called "Is Katheryn Dreaming Everything?"
Mm-hmm. I think I was speaking with.
And that was, it's kind of funny because if Katheryn were dreaming everything, if she woke up from the dream, I mean, my goodness, Amanda would still be alive. And a lot of characters' plot points would be erased, probably. Like, for example, Justin and Mitch and Erica and Charles and Oscar and.
You're right, because there's so many people she hasn't even met. So, I mean, she has a very vivid imagination. It must be some strong knockout gas or anesthetic while she's getting that surgery done for her breast cancer. But, yeah, I think I was speaking with Candace last night. She made a good point. It's like, yeah, a couple of seasons ago, I can definitely see it being a dream. But with everything that's been going on lately, it's hard to imagine that everything that's a dream at this point. But, I mean, hey, it would explain why a presidential candidate is having sex with number 9 right now. So you know, it's funny how Katheryn labeled Candace as number 9 for Jim, but Charles even said like he's been with women all around the country, so there's no telling what number Candace is.
Yeah, who knows? She could be like number 35 or something.
Yeah, and that's just like, downscaling it. And I mean, Katheryn just. Yeah, I feel like she's going to be the unsung hero of the next season because really I feel like she's still going to be helping Hannah get over the whole Quincy Jr. situation. But, hey, we'll see what happens. But, man, it was definitely a privilege speaking with you today. And without a doubt, we will definitely do this again in the future. But to close out, do you have any last-minute thoughts about Katheryn?
Yeah, I do. I would like to say that even back before do you remember when Melissa... Because Melissa and Katheryn met at the dinner party that Katheryn had thrown. Remember that?
Oh, yes, I do. That terrible finale. Yes, I do.
Everybody was there, from Quincy to Melissa to, oh my goodness, Quincy and Melissa in the same house. Wow, that's hard to believe.
Remember when?
Anyway,
Yeah,
she was just sitting there like, oh, okay.
yeah. It's like yeah. This
Anyway,
is
Melissa,
Melissa's date. Oh, well, Jeffrey's date. She couldn't believe it, like a woman.
yeah, and Melissa's father had cancer, right? And see, it was just so dirty how Veronica would basically using her and her father's medicine to get what she wanted.
Yep.
I feel like that. I wish that the plot could have been okay. Tyler, where Melissa, in the middle of all this, could have went to Katheryn Cryer and said, "Okay, look here, I need help. Veronica will not pay my father's medical bills. She's using me to get to Jeffrey." And explain, my father has cancer, he's dying, he needs his medicine, and I have to do what I have to do. If Katheryn would have heard that, Katheryn would have said, no way. And she would have given Melissa enough money to help her family. I feel like that if I wish that Melissa could have gone to Katheryn for the help that she needed, because her father would still be alive today, I'm sure.
Yep, I agree.
Katheryn knew about all that.
I agree. And I said it way back when that it's a shame that instead of bickering with each other, that Jeffrey and Melissa didn't work together from the start to get out of the situation. Like, I can understand why Jeffrey wouldn't want to work with Melissa because of what she did to him. Yes, it was Veronica that set everything up, but at the same time, Melissa did, pretty much put him in an awkward situation. But those two putting their heads together instead of bickering the whole time, they most likely could have came out with a situation where they could have gotten out of Veronica's grasp, whether it be Katheryn Cryer or, heck, I mean, if you want to go so far as to say that after Wyatt got his inheritance, Jeffrey might have gotten the money from him, or heck, even David might have helped out. You just never know.
You never know. And Melissa even said, if you can find a way to help get me some money from my parents, I will help you take your mother down.
Yep, that's right. It's just like it was too little too late at that point because those two just couldn't get their act together. And it's just a shame. But, I mean, honestly, like I said before, the fact that Melissa's starring in Dear White People and doing pretty well in that show, she might be killed off. Here's one thing I do like about Melissa. If she is dead, she's one of the few characters who was killed off, but it's believable because her storyline, in my opinion, has ended. The only reason she did what she did was to save her father's life, but he's dead now. Her mom pretty much has lost everything, and she doesn't have any will left to live. So, honestly, if Melissa's dead, I actually like the character in terms of, like, I felt bad for her. And I've said it before, every time I start to have, like, an attraction to a character, like, wow, Melissa's fine, they end up being killed off. So if Melissa gets killed off, I feel like her death will be very satisfying compared to Jennifer, Warlock, or Maggie Day, just because she went out like a champ, because she made Veronica pretty much, I mean, just scared the crap out of her, literally. So Melissa, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing. If Melissa does die, it's going to be, there most likely will be, after this car wreck, there's probably going to be no more grandchild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So who knows how that's going to play out.
And I think that's a good parallel to Tyler Perry's writing, where we have Hannah losing her grandson and then Veronica potentially losing her unborn grandchild. And the big thing is seeing how those two react to the situation. Like, of course, last season was all about Hannah reacting to losing Quincy Jr., while this season, depending on Veronica's state.
I'm so sorry, Jeremy. You just triggered something in my mind. You said something about Hannah losing her grandson.
Yep.
I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I want to talk about another character. You don't mind?
Oh, no, go ahead.
This would be a perfect time for Michael to come back into the series, because Michael lost his granddaughter.
Yep.
Hannah has lost her grandson.
Mm-hmm.
So this, in my opinion, if you ask me, this would be a perfect time to see Michael re-enter the series.
Bro.
Because they can connect with each other.
Bro, Bro, you saw my video, Missing in Action. Michael, I broke it down. I said, I can't agree more with you. It's too good not to happen. And it will just tick me off if it doesn't. Because those two can comfort each other in their time. That's what, okay, there's a difference between forced romance and deserved romance. This is definitely a deserved romance because those two can connect. Like, Katheryn is a great friend helping Hannah cope with her loss because she lost her daughter, but Michael can relate to her even more because that their grandchildren were their lives. Because even though Michael was close to his granddaughter, he wasn't so close with his own daughter because of the fact that she was a drug addict. Same thing with Hannah and Candace. She wasn't close with Candace because Candace was too busy prostituting and blackmailing and conning people, while that little child was her life. And then the worst part about it is, we don't really know that much about Michael, his daughter, and little Lizzie, but one could assume that he was raising his granddaughter for most of her life, while Hannah only raised Quincy for like the first 2 or 3 years of his life before Candace scooped him up and left. And then right when he re-entered her life, she lost him again. It was just a shame. Just a shame.
Was a shame. By the way, Michael's daughter's name is Tina.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, and the last time we saw Michael was at Candace's house when it was Candace, Benny, and Michael and that lawyer because she was trying to sue the Criers. And again, it was just another ploy to get money out of them.
Right. And speaking of even Hannah, see that we talk about all these characters and they all go off into their own storylines. It's going to be interesting to see David and Hannah talking this season.
Yes, I want to know what they're talking about.
I do too, but because David said, because you remember the last time they talked, don't you?
Yeah, that was in the hospital when Wyatt had overdosed, and David was talking about how you can tell Katheryn what's going on. It's like, I will, and then he walked off. And then I remember the time before that was when, oh wow, wasn't that after everybody got arrested, and then Hannah was just sitting in the Crier's house waiting for Katheryn to get back so she can get her check? It's like I'm not leaving here until I get my check. Well, Katheryn and Jim are going to be gone for a while.
Basically, she rebuked David, said, David, you're a liar, the truth ain't in you, and I ain't going to tell you nothing.
Yeah, because anything
and that's basically when David left and had his mother, I'm not at liberty to discuss it with you, that's what she said.
Yeah, and she was all like, oh, you want me to just spill my guts about my son, Benny? Because he broke it down. It was like, you don't know my wife, Veronica. She's just this person that plays all these games. And Hannah was like, all you want me to do is tell you about my son so you can use that against him in the future. I'm not telling you anything. It was a great scene. And that was pretty much Hannah saying, like, I don't want anything to do with you or any of these Criers. I'm officially done with you halves. I just want my money, then I'm gone. And remember how she tore up the house looking for loose change and money all around? That was crazy.
Oh, yeah. She told, David said, I went to your son and he told me to ask my wife. Hannah was like, he shouldn't have said that. And David said, oh, yeah, what should he have said? Hannah said, he should have said, ask your trifling ass wife. I was done.
Yep, that was it. I just love those interactions like that because, again, it's just at one point you think these characters are like, Hannah's like, this is a good man. I feel like from that scene, the last time they saw each other was when Hannah was asking David to pray with her about, Benny in jail. And then it comes to find out that the very person she's looking to get help from was the same person that got her son arrested to begin with. And then you look at Hannah and Veronica, like 1 minute, the two of them can't stand each other in season 1. But after Veronica got Benny out of jail, that's when those two started to warm up to each other. Like, I remember Hannah said, hey, I baked you a cake and I'll leave it in your front seat of the car. And it's like, oh man, those two are getting along. Then the next thing you know, Hannah catches Veronica on top of her son.
Yeah, and that did not go well.
No, I honestly, I feel like that was one of those strangest things that could have been written into the show. Like, I wasn't a big fan. I didn't hate it. I just didn't see the point of it. Like, obviously, it was Veronica taking a stab at David because she could have sworn up and down that he was having an affair. But at the same time, it's just like, that I don't know. That was a bit too weird for me.
That's what Hannah could be talking about. Hannah and David could be talking about that. Because, Hannah's like, oh, an eye for an eye.
Yeah, yep, that's right. So we'll see.
By the way, that could be, that, by the way, one of the episodes was titled, episode 9 was titled, an eye for an eye. So that could be when she says that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways. Because, like I said last night, these titles are, I wouldn't say misleading, but the title could just be one sentence, but it could encompass many different characters, especially when it comes to like relationships, parents and their children. So this season's definitely crazy. I mean, we have less than 2 weeks. I feel like we probably won't get another trailer. We'll probably get more of these, like behind the scene cast interviews when they're describing what's to be expected in the upcoming season. And it's pretty much the same thing. Like, it's fast paced recording the show. It's going to be drama, redemption, power struggles. And like I said last night, a couple of the episodes I'm most looking forward to, based off the title alone, is Power Struggle and Team of Rivals. Those are 2 episodes I'm definitely looking forward to.
See, those are like episodes like 20 and 21. So who knows? We may, based on the haves and the have-nots, they usually show episodes like 11 or 12 episodes at a time.
Yep.
So we may not see those episodes until late 2018, early 2019.
Yeah, probably like August or September if we're lucky. But I mean, either way, I mean, it's just something to look forward to. But all right, well, to wrap things up here, let's see. What's the one thing that you feel like makes Katheryn Cryer stand out above everybody else?
Wow. Wow. That's a good one. You got me. I think that Katheryn is, I think she's the only one she's the most dynamic. Let's put it that way. She's the most dynamic character I think I've seen so far. I mean, yeah, Candace and they're dynamic. They have, like Veronica can be like a genius in the courtroom, but then comes this bad bitch. And Candace can be vulnerable and tough, but Kat has so many different sides. It's just so. I mean, one minute she's happy, one minute she's sad, one minute she's going to kill you, and the next minute she's ready to hug you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Like that time, like the first, like he was talking to Hannah and loving, and Hannah, I love you so much, and you're just an angel for me. And the next minute, Jim, what the hell are you doing in my house?
Like when she gave Hannah her job back and then came in the house, and then Jim's like, I know you didn't let this woman who had our son arrested come back in our house. And then she went off on him about Celine. A perfect example of her.
She said, you think that whore's a problem for you? Wait until you have an ex-wife. Just walked off.
Yep, man. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next, because there's just so much we can say about Katheryn Cryer. But man, it was definitely a privilege speaking with you today, and I will definitely link up with me again. Just send me a tweet whenever you want to live stream again, and we can come up with a different topic. But yeah, in a few hours we're going to be talking about the dynamic between Hannah and Candace. So 8 o'clock. I can't wait. I feel like, people will be off of work, so I think we'll probably have more people joining in on the live stream there. But with that being said, I do appreciate you supporting the channel, man, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
You too, and Jeremy, God bless you.
Excellent. All right, take care, man. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in for the live stream all about Katheryn Cryer. Again, be back around 8 p.m. because I'll be doing another live stream talking about Hannah and Candace. Does Hannah really love Candace? We're going to be talking about all the dynamics of their relationship as mother and daughter. And if you would like to join into the live stream as well, feel free to tweet me or just send me a message here on YouTube, and I'll be more than happy to have you.